Is it giving any problems? Or should I get my phone?
No, it's redirecting. It's saying
It
it's
says
redirecting.
connected on my iPad.
Oh, so you are seeing it, Rita ji?
No,
You're-
it says connect. It says live on Facebook. That's what it says on the top.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that
I
means
think-
you're on then. Thank you,
yeah.
Rita ji.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we'll start with the with the 9th chapter, and as usual, we'll start with a quick recap. Let me share the presentation. Okay, so just a reminder of the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the mnemonic, K-A-M-O-U-D. So K is the knowledge of the Absolute, chapter 7. 8 is attaining the Supreme. So we have done these 2 chapters. 9th is the most confidential knowledge. We'll be doing this, one of the key chapters, very strategically placed right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. Then 10th is the knowledge of the opulence of the Absolute. 11th is the universal form. And then 12th is devotional service. So a quick recap of the things that we wanted to remember. The 2 sections in chapter 8, AD, which was attaining Krishna, and the different destinations of those who do and do not attain Krishna. So how is one's next body determined? It's determined by the consciousness at the time of death. What determines consciousness at the time of death? So there were 3 things we said. One's activities, karma, one's own swabhav, nature, and one's desires. So karma and swabhav are kind of closely linked because one's swabhav determines one's karma and one's karma determines one's swabhav. The only difference being that swabhav is manifesting now and karma is accumulating over several lifetimes. And then 2 methods to fix the consciousness were distinct. One was Astanga Yoga and the second was Bhakti Yoga. So through the process of Astanga, if the yogi is able to reach the stage of Samadhi, then they are able to voluntarily give up their lives. So they can fix their time of death, they can fix their consciousness of death. So one of the things that was discussed in chapter 8, which I did not spend too much time on, was the time of death, whether it is during the ascending sun or descending sun, during during which time of the day. And ultimately, they're all for yogis or karmkandis. So we see in the case of Bhishma that even though his body had been almost completely destroyed, he still did not give up his body because he wanted to wait for an auspicious time. And of course, for him being a devotee, the auspicious time was when Krishna came. But Krishna also arranged it that he came at a time when it was auspicious for yogis to give up their body. So the yogis are able to do that after many, many years and lifetimes of practice, that they can forcibly separate their subtle body from the gross body and also fix their consciousness at the time. So how does the soul transmigrate? It's basically the super soul. The super soul causes the soul and the subtle body to enter into a new body. And then in terms of destinations, Krishna had spoken about the material and spiritual destination. And the spiritual world is the opposite in these three terms, that everything is eternal in the spiritual world. In the material world, everything is temporary. In the spiritual world, everything is chit or conscious. Material world, most of the things are jad or without consciousness. And the biggest difference, of course, is ananda. That all the interactions, all the living entities are blissful. And in the material world, it's the dukhalayam ashashvatam. Right? It's different kinds of miseries coming in different forms, whether it is from your mind or from your body or from those around you. So a quick summation of chapter 8, that at the end of chapter 7, Krishna had spoken about himself as the ultimate goal. So if you remember, Krishna has, in the chapter 7, I said that everything material and spiritual comes from me, and knowing me is the perfection. So he repeatedly made himself as the goal. And of course, when you establish the goal, you need to establish the path to the goal. So in this chapter, in the 8th chapter, he establishes the path, which is by fixing one's consciousness on him at the time of death. And if one has a material consciousness, then he will get a material body. If one dies with Krishna in the mind, then they will go back to the spiritual world. And then he speaks about becoming a yogi to be able to fix the consciousness. And then the easy way is to become a devotee. So we have the diagram of a devotee doing the study of the scriptures and deity worship and chanting, or associating with the Vaishnavas, or living in a holy place. And all of that is to naturally get the person's mind going to Krishna. So when the mind is trained in this way, then naturally at the time of death, it will go to Krishna. But the process is much easier and much more enjoyable. So we have the verse, starting with Antkalicha Mahameva. Do we have any volunteers for the verse? Kajal Prabhu, please go ahead. Go ahead, Kajal Prabhu.
अंतकाले च ममेव शरणमुक्त्वा कलेवरं य प्रयाति स मद्भावं याति याति
Yati Nasti.
नास्तत्र संशय.
Very good. And do you want to do the translation, Prabhu?
Yeah. And whoever at the end of the life while leaving the body, remembering me, they attend me, and this is there is no doubt about it.
Thank you. So whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. One of the key verses for Vaishnavas. Meditate on Antkali Chamameva. Krishna says that whatever you think of, in the next verse he says Yam Yam Mapi Smaran Bhav. That whatever you think of, that's what you will get. So better Antkali Chamameva. Better to think about me. Okay, very good. So we'll start with the 9th chapter, but I'll pause here and see if there were any questions or comments on the 7th chapter or any of the discussions we have had on the chapters prior to this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Ravi speaking, Prabhuji. My personal laptop got some problem, Prabhuji. It's not starting. So I am hearing today class from, mobile phone, Prabhuji. So, because I am not seeing slides, just in case, like if I ask any question that is not, probability that I might not catch fully is there. So I request you to please consider, Prabhuji.
Sure, Prabhu. Sure. I hope your laptop gets fixed soon.
Sure, Prabhuji. I am trying, but little doubtful.
Ravi Prabhu, you are on Facebook, right? You can catch the slides on Facebook then.
Facebook also, I think it is asking for an app to install, Mataji.
Oh, okay. You
but
don't have the.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I tried that.
Okay. So, so there are no. So let's continue. There are no questions.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, Avinash Prabhu.
In chapter 8, the Krishna tells us at the time of the death, that's what you get at the next lifetime. But if there is a certain death, for example, a car accident, that time the person is not thinking Krishna, he's thinking, hey, I'd turn right or turn left, Then what happens?
It's a good question, and I think that's where the abhyas comes in. That where do we take shelter of? So all our minds, all our lives, we are trained to take shelter of things, either our mind, our body, or things around us, and that's why it is natural for us. Like the question that you're asking is a very natural question. That if a person is about to have an accident, then yes, the person is going to think. I was in a very similar situation that we were driving back from Gita Nagari, and we were in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dhruv at that time was in the car seat. He may have been maybe a couple of years or maybe even younger at the time. And when the accident was happening, so it happened in a few seconds, but while it is happening, it looks like it's happening. It's a much longer time. And my consciousness was completely in terms of how to get out of the accident, to steer the car and this and that. Induleka's consciousness was completely, Krishna protect me, Krishna protect me. She wasn't saying, my dear husband protect me, or anything like that. And of course, we didn't die, but it was something that that struck to me, that whatever we train ourselves to do, that's what we do. That's what we do. For devotees who have reflexively trained, not trained externally, but just take shelter of Krishna, then instinctively their mind goes to Krishna during more so during these times. So that's why the consciousness at the time of death, or at the time of any extenuating circumstances, is a summation of the consciousness from your previous how you have previously trained your consciousness to take shelter.
Thanks.
And Prabhuji, you have talked about the assurance part also last time, right? So Krishna would help. So if we have really practiced well, have done our homework, I'm sure whatever be the situation, Krishna will help.
That is true. Thank you for pointing out that. Actually, this is a statement that's made by Prabhupada, that if for whatever some reason you're not able to think, then Krishna will think for you on your behalf. So you may not think of Krishna, but Krishna will think of you, and because Krishna is there in you, then he will make you think of him. So that assurance is also there.
Thanks.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice question. Okay, so let's continue with chapter 9. It's one of the more philosophical chapters. So a quick recap on the conversation, that at the end of the chapter on Dhyan Yoga, Krishna had glorified the yogi who thinks of him in Samadhi. Right? Yogi namapi sarvesham, that he says of the best of the yogis, madgatenata, one who thinks of me. And then in the 7th chapter, knowledge of the absolute, Krishna begins to give information about himself. Right? Matata paratram nanya kinchedasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutrimani ganaiva. That just like pearls are strung in a necklace on thread, I am the thread that is holding everything that is material or spiritual. I am the taste of the water. I am the heat and the light of fire. I am the ability of man. So many ways he says that he is the essence of everything. He is the cause of everything. He maintains everything. He destroys everything. So, so Krishna now, after having established some amount of knowledge about himself, in the 8th chapter, he spoke about what is the way to reach him. And we discussed it just now by remaining in consciousness of him all the time, especially at the time of death. So now that gets us to the 9th chapter. That in the 8th chapter, Krishna gave information to Arjuna about how to attain him by becoming a devotee. Now, to be fair, Krishna also talked about the path of yoga, but Arjuna had already rejected that path. He had said this path is too difficult. So really speaking, he has given him the path to becoming a devotee. And now in this chapter, Krishna will explain the process of becoming a devotee. So this is considered to be a companion of chapter 7. That chapter 7 is knowledge of the absolute, and chapter 9 could also be titled as attaining the absolute. So the reason is confidential knowledge, we'll see that, but it's a very similar chapter in mood and structure. So it's divided into 3 sections. The first section is called Achintya Tattva. And Achintya Tattva is, Achintya means the inconceivable nature of a truth. It's a little bit of an oxymoron, because if it is a truth, then you should know it. And if you don't know it, it's not a truth anymore. But we'll see how Krishna reconciles both aspects. And then Krishna, he expands what he told in chapter 7, the knowledge of the absolute, about knowing. He will expand on that and give Arjuna and us more ways to know him. And section 3 is again assurances by Krishna, this time much more direct and stronger assurances. So AKA is the mnemonic, Achintya Tattva, knowing Krishna, and assurances. So first discussion is, why is this called the most confidential knowledge? Because most is superlative. If he has given most, that means there should be something that is more and something that is as it is. So this is how Prabhupada explains that in chapters 2 to 6, Krishna gave Arjun confidential knowledge. The knowledge of the soul, Atma Gyan, is considered to be confidential knowledge. And one who attains that knowledge can attain liberation. So if you remember in chapter 5, when Krishna spoke about Nishkam Karma, the three doers, and in the last he spoke about liberation. So knowledge of the self is sufficient to liberate one from one's material body. Then in chapters 7 and 8, Krishna gave knowledge about himself. And he also gave knowledge about his relationship with the soul. So this is more confidential knowledge, because now you're getting knowledge of Krishna. This is called technically Sambandha Gyan. That now that you know about yourself, Sambandh means relationship. Relationship is between two people. And it has essentially three components. Who am I? Who is the other person? And what's the nature of the relationship? So as part of confidential knowledge, Krishna gives us the understanding of who we are, which essentially is that we are not the body, but the soul. Then he gives knowledge of himself. Chapter 7. He gives the knowledge of the absolute. He gives knowledge about himself. And then he also gives knowledge about attaining him. So attaining is a little bit in a slightly different flavor, but predominantly he is giving Sambandha Gyan here. That your spirit soul, I am spirit soul. I am the one who creates, maintains, and destroys everything. I am the one who's maintaining you. I am the one who's maintaining all that you see around you. And your relationship is that of dependence on me. So this is more confidential knowledge. In the 9th chapter, Krishna gives the most confidential knowledge. Now, he is not just talking about establishing a relationship. He's talking about establishing an intimate, loving relationship. So he's giving the keys to the kingdom. He's giving the secret of bhakti. So it's one way is that you say that you come to my house and you knock on the door, and then if I'm available or I'm in the mood to entertain guests, then I'll open the door and let you in. You'll sit in the living room. So that's one way, which is some kind of access. The other way is that you take the keys to my house. And whenever you want, you open the door and the house is yours. So you can use it as you please. Not only is the house yours, even I am yours. So this is, because this is so potent, so naturally you would be very, very cautious in giving somebody that kind of access to yourself. So this is classified as the most confidential knowledge, which is essentially saying that Krishna is very easily attained by the process of bhakti. So we had seen that there is a gradual advancement from confidential to more confidential to most, or one can take to the path of bhakti and go from more confidential to most confidential. So this is an important concept for us to understand, because Krishna is now beginning to shine the spotlight on bhakti, which has been his purpose all along. He's speaking of everything else incidentally. So the reason he's telling us that we are the soul, the reason he's telling that he himself is supporting everybody, the cause of everything, all that is just to get us to this point, to make us appreciate the potency of bhakti. And this is abhidegyan. Abhidegyan is understanding the process by which a sambandh can be attained. So you go with the understanding, or Prabhupada would give this example, that in India, arranged marriages are there. So when the husband and wife are married, they're strangers, but the sambandh gyan is there. The husband knows he's the husband, the wife knows she's the wife. They know the nature of the relationship also. But then as they live in marriage, then they act in a certain way with the understanding of the nature of the relationship. The husband understands it is his duty to protect the wife. The wife understands that she serves the husband. And in this way, the relationship that was based on simply an understanding of the nature of the relationship then actually materializes. So actually, experientially, the husband-wife relationship happens. So similarly, we see the transition over here, that after understanding our relationship with Krishna through Abhidhe, we are able to actualize it. So let's talk a little bit about Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. And I'll discuss this, and then also, why does Krishna talk about it? So what is Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva? So just analyzing the word, Achintya means inconceivable. Bheda means difference. Abhed means no difference. And Tattva means just it's a truth. It's a principle. So in English, it's translated to inconceivable, simultaneous, oneness, and difference. And the way Krishna explains it is that, and this he has already spoken of in the 7th chapter, when he says that everything that you see around you, the earth, the planets, I am the one who creates, I am the one who maintains, and I am the one who destroys. And everything is happening by my desire, by my will, and my potency. So he uses the analogy of the wind in the sky. So the analogy that he says is that just like the mighty sky holds the wind, but has nothing to do with the wind, but at the same time is holding the wind. That is my simultaneous oneness and distinction. So everything in the material world is happening because of my desire, because I will it. But yet, I am not involved in it. So another example is that if somebody is driving a car, then the car is moving based on the way the person is manipulating the car, accelerator, steering wheel. So it's happening by his desire, will, and potency. But within the car, there are so many things that are happening. There's engines that are moving, and pistons, and wheels that are moving. The person, if somebody comes to the driver and says that you're moving this piston and you're actually responsible for this cylinder moving, and the person will say no, because you don't see my hand over there. So similarly, Krishna constructs this whole material world, and then after he constructs it, it runs by his potency. Then Krishna speaks in terms of his relationship with spirit. So now he's speaking about us. He's speaking about the jiva. So the nature of the jiva is the same as the nature of Krishna. Krishna is spirit, jiva is spirit. Krishna is eternal, jiva is eternal. And the jiva is created by Krishna. So this is the oneness. But then there is a difference also, that qualitatively they are the same, but quantitatively there is a difference. Just like the analogy of a drop of water and an ocean. So Prabhupada would say that if you do a chemical analysis on a drop of water, it'll be water and salt and whatever else is there in an ocean, and you can say that it's like the ocean. But then you cannot sail a ship in a drop of water, or a shark cannot live in a drop of water. The water of the ocean can cover millions and millions of square miles of the surface, but not the drop. So there is qualitative similarity, but quantitative distinction. Now in this chapter, Krishna, he really speaks about his oneness and difference with matter. He does not speak so much about, he does speak, but not so much about spirit. The reason I'm saying it, I'm bringing it up here almost at the same level, is because firstly Prabhupada explains it, and for the sake of completeness. So both the sides are Achinta Bheda Bheda. One is with respect to Krishna and matter. The other is with respect to Krishna and spirit. That he is the same with matter because it is created by his desire, will, and potency. And he is separate because he is never a part of it. Then he is the same as spirit because qualitatively there is no difference. He is distinct because quantitatively he is infinite and the jiva is infinitesimal. So this is the two aspects of Achinta Bheda Bhed Tattva. And this was actually, so this is in the Bhagavad Gita, so it's there always. But it took Krishna coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to explain this to us. And with his mercy and that of the Acharyas, especially Prabhupada, we are able to understand it. The point that is made is, if it is achintya, then why do you do a chintan on it? If it is inconceivable, then why are you trying to conceive it? The reason we are trying to conceive it is because it has been broken down into small morsels by Mahaprabhu, by the Vaishnava Acharyas. And of course, an analogy is only going to give us a broad understanding. There are so many details that are not covered in the analogy, But it is sufficient for us to understand this tattva. So the neutrality of Krishna with respect to the spirit soul is what keeps the bheda. So Krishna has stressed this many times, that whatever you do, I have nothing to do with it. Whatever you suffer or enjoy, I have nothing to do with it. So just like he is separated from the material world by the fact that he wills it. It's like a king, he wills something that may this happen. And then after that, he is separated from it. Similarly, he is separated from the spirit soul by his neutrality. So, so why does Krishna speak about this tattva, which has the potential of confusing people? And of course, Krishna does everything for a reason. So in the chapter 7 and 8, especially chapter 7, we have seen that how Krishna was emphasizing that he is everything material and spiritual. Now he is going to be talking about bhakti. Bhakti is all about relationships. And for a relationship to happen, there needs to be two distinct persons. One cannot have a relationship with oneself. I guess theoretically, I mean, like if you're a narcissist or sick, you can have a relationship with yourself. But then again, that's not like normal. For a person to have a normal, vibrant relationship, there has to be two people. And one may wrongly deduce from the previous points that Krishna is saying that I'm everything material and spiritual, that there is no difference between Krishna and me. There is no difference between me and God. So this is one of the most insidious trap that Maya Devi puts for us. That following what Krishna is telling us, but then we, or some people, they go on a separate fork, and they quote chapter 7 and say, Krishna says that I'm the ability of man, and I'm matter, I'm spirit. So obviously, if Krishna is me, I am Krishna, which automatically negates the notion of a relationship, and it introduces the notion of equality. That my perfection is to become God. So some people aspire to become God, and some people bring God down to their level. So some people say, I will become God, and then some people say that God will become me. God is serving me. God is there to take care of my needs. So Krishna is reconciling the fact. So obviously he is not going to negate what he has said earlier on, that I am everything. But now he is saying that I am everything, but at the same time I am different. I am everything because of my interest, because of my potency, because of my empowerment. I am everything. But I am different. And that is the Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. So now that he has established his unique nature, his difference from the Jiva, now he can happily talk about bhakti, relationships, reciprocation, all that is possible. And also all that he has spoken earlier, that everything rests on me, that I am the cause of everything, that is also now possible. So as I mentioned, this addresses God is matter doubts. When Krishna says that I am the heat and light of fire, then people start worshipping fire as God. It addresses those doubts, and it reconciles the impersonal aspects of the Vedas, where the other form of that spirit is God is addressed. So this is the basis of the process of bhakti. This is the essence of Achintya Bheda Bhedtattva. So I'm going to pause over here and see if anybody has any comments. Okay, so let's proceed.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One small thing that I have been thinking. So, like when Krishna was talking to Arjuna earlier in the first section of the Bhagavad Gita, where he said karma, and then he says jnana, and then he was taking him through that journey, and then eventually Arjun said, Krishna, I'm confused. Tell me what is the right thing. So over here also, Krishna is trying to preach to Arjuna in different ways, and is Arjuna more confused, or is he more convinced through this explanation of understanding of Krishna?
So this is one of those situations where Krishna is addressing implicit concerns. So we don't see a question from Arjun about Krishna, you said your matter, and now you're saying you're not. But it's in the same mood as you're saying. There it was a response to an explicit a declaration of confusion. At the beginning of the 3rd chapter, Arjun said that I'm confused and by your equivocal statements, that should I act or not act. 5th chapter again, he says, I'm still confused. Should I work or not work? So those are explicit queries that he addresses. This is an implicit query. Or you can say that Krishna is building the foundation. He understands that as one will read, these kinds of doubts will come in the minds of Arjun and people who follow. So even before they reach the point of articulating it, Krishna is deftly addressing it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Prabhuji, one small question, Prabhuji. One thing that I didn't get is after you gave the explanation, like you are mentioning the two aspects of Achintya Ved Tattva, like Krishna and matter and Krishna and Jiva. So in this chapter, both are discussed, Prabhuji, or he completely covers the Achintya Ved Tattva, or a part of it only is given?
Mostly in connection with matter. He does speak. So when some of the verses are analyzed, he does talk about spirit, but primarily he's addressing it with respect to matter.
With respect to matter, so with given that, Prabhuji, like it also clarifies, because you explained how people misread chapter 7 and 8 to think that themselves as God or to bring God to their level. So that particular I could think, because you explained it, so like but that part of it also answered, Prabhuji, here in this chapter.
So in this chapter, it is answered. So Krishna doesn't take it head on, if that's what you're asking. He doesn't say that people should not think of this. So he is introducing the understanding by which people should not think like that. Beginning from the 13th chapter, there he will talk about it more explicitly. He will talk about the relationship of himself with, with the jiva in the context of the three modes of material nature, or in the context of matter. There he'll speak on it more elaborately.
Mm, yes, Prabhuji. And can I ask one more question, Prabhuji?
I think there's somebody else waiting. If you can hold on, Prabhu.
Sure, Prabhuji, definitely.
Somebody else had raised a hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhuji Pat here. A few comments and not questions, but let me see if a question arises out of my comments. So the first is I wanted to relate the example you gave during an accident or something. Very moving, very, I can relate to it a little bit. So I went through a little bit of a, what I call it, a close encounter of death. And even in the fraction of a second, when you think of him, obviously I don't understand him at all because he's so mystic, so vast. I have no power to understand him, and to admit that first. But I think he does some. He at that point of time when you actually accept his decision that I'm ready to accept death. I have no complaints. I think he gets he not gets defeated. He gets he doesn't want you to die because he wants you to live longer, not for long life. This is to experience life, to understand him more because you still haven't understood him. You as in me in this case, obviously, not you. Obviously, you have more understanding than I can ever do. That's point one. There is, I think somebody asked that question, should I turn left, right? How do I really, I think there's a way, I think you said it so beautifully, that if you really believe in him, it'll only come. The thoughts about that left, right will never come. It'll only come. He will only come. And he will give you an opportunity to experience more life. That's my first experience, just an experience. I don't know how to express it, but I could, the way you said, Hindu Deviji is like she's saying that, you know what, my husband is no one. I would still surrender to Krishna and he will help me than any husband, wife, father, mother, nobody. That's one. I think I like the contradiction, what you talk about in terms of, if it is achintya, if it is inconceivable, why do you conceive it? Why there is so much, it's just such a lovely design, I think. It is this whole life is such a contradiction. There is day, there is night, there is pain, there is joy, there is everything you pick up that is out there. There is a exactly opposite, whether you call it a synonym or antonym. Exactly the opposite exists, just to, if one dwells into the opposites only, then understand the value of the other part of it. If there is only day, I would never know the value of day if there is no nights. I think that is a beautiful way of his creation, in my view. That's point two. I like that drop of water to the ocean. Drop of water from the ocean has the same chemical property, 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen, that makes the water composition chemical, the same level of sodium chloride, same level of many chemical properties that the ocean has and the drop has. So is the drop an ocean? The answer is no. As you beautifully said, the shark cannot live in a drop, but the shark can swim in an ocean. I think that analogy is phenomenal to understand that you are just a drop and the ocean exists. And when the drop falls into the ocean, there's such a lovely feeling, right? The drop must be feeling, wow, I'm such a part of such a big thing. I'm no more that little drop. I'm the ocean. I think that was a beautiful analogy that I learned. And I think there is my view, Prabhuji, is that, first of all, appreciate your every articulation. If one really listens to it, there's a tremendous value just to understand the power of what you're saying. So my request would be to just, if one can listen, because you obviously have attained certain things that I know for sure that I have not attained, and I don't know that I can ever attain, and I don't think I can. Let me stop there from my attainment perspective. But I think the realization when I'm able to relate everything that you say into my own life, very quickly I'm able to relate to it. It may not be been able to explain the way it is explained by Krishna to Arjun, but it is such profound truth. I don't remember any verse. I will never be able to remember, I know. But my request is that, not request, my realization request both to everybody is that the value is immeasurable. Everything that you say and everything that you beautifully explain. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your realizations, your personal realizations, and your appreciation. And you do know the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. So,
I do. That's the only chapter I've learned, and I would still remember. It's pretty intense. No, probably it is wonderful. It's okay. Some people may not be able to remember, but I think if I can get a little essence out of this, I'm not doing well. A lot of people prayed for me. First of all, that's a tremendous gratitude towards that. I think I will continue to get the essence. I will continue to not be a studious guy who knows chapter 1 to chapter 18. That will never happen to me. I know, but it's good to listen. That's also I wanted to say that, and I'm desperate to listen. Trust me in that.
very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so moving ahead in the interest of time, let's go to the next slide. So here, Krishna is speaking about two kinds of people who know Krishna and do not know Krishna. And essentially, after describing his oneness and distinction with matter and spirit, he's acknowledging the fact that not everybody will get it. Now, this is similar to the statements that he made in the 7th chapter, where he talked about 4 kinds of people who know him, and then he talks about 6 kinds of people who do not know him. But here, he's speaking after having given a deeper understanding. The reason people don't know me is that they cannot able to see me separate from matter, or they do not know me because they're not able to see themselves separate from me. They think that I am them and they are me. So these are the kinds of people, the materialists. They are basically seeing God in matter. There is a saying, right? Cash is well, that is cash is king. But I think there are some sayings that say that, like, money is God, or enjoyment is supreme. So they are looking at, they are hankering for the supreme. It's just that they are hankering for it in matter. And then there is the atheist and the mental speculators. So these are the people who, for various reasons, will not be able to distill Krishna out from matter and spirit. And what happens to them? Krishna says that the external energy of mind, called Mahamaya, covers them with a curtain of illusion. Because Krishna is that as you want to be, I will reciprocate. Or more precisely, as you want me to be, I will reciprocate. So even those who worship the devas, the conviction, the faith is bestowed by Krishna, because he is responding to their desires. The intelligence of the mental speculators and the impersonalists, the energy of the materialists, the hatred and the atheists, Krishna is the one who is providing all that through the agency of Mahamaya, his external energy. Then he speaks about those who know him. And now he is talking about bhakti. So how to know him? So this is Krishna speaking about the process of always chanting and worshipping with devotion, constantly engaged in bhakti. Now he's not going into details. He's introducing the notion of bhakti over here. And he's explaining that these are the people who have been able to understand the difference between me and them. They're able to understand the relationship, and now they are acting within the integrity of that relationship. And what happens to them? Krishna says that they come under my internal energy, called the Yogamaya. And Yogamaya, it removes the curtain of material illusion. Now the nature of Maya is to put the person under illusion. The word Maya means, ma means not, and ya means that is. So Maya is not that is. So it is something, the nature of Maya is that it will show you something that is not actually there. The nature of Mahamaya is that it bewilders a person to turn away from Krishna. The nature of Yogamaya is that it covers the person in a way that he turns towards Krishna. So the examples that are given is the residents of Vrindavan. They are completely devoted to Krishna, but they don't care about the fact that he is God. They know he is God, but they don't care about it. Why? Because they are under Krishna's Yogamaya potency. The nature of the word yoga means to link, to connect. So the nature of Yogamaya is that it connects one to Krishna. And what is the destination? So Krishna says that those who are averse to me, who are material speculators, they, life after life, they suffer. And now suffering over here is understood to be in a broad sense, that even the demigods are suffering because they die. They have to face enmity from the asuras. They're also troubled by lust and envy and anger, so they're also suffering. Everybody from Brahma down to the lowest planet. And that's the nature of Mahamaya. And those who know Krishna, Krishna says, they come to me. That is yoga. Yoga is connecting with Krishna. So Krishna now, he talks about the essence of bhakti. And he explains it in the simplest terms possible, without compromising the integrity of the definition. So what is bhakti? He says that whatever you offer, whether it is a flower, whether it is a fruit, whether it is a leaf, or whether it is water, you offer that, or anything that you offer, you offer with love and devotion. So this is the simple definition of bhakti. Now one might say that, why is Krishna making this most confidential? Because the reality is that one who understands this can control Krishna. Because Krishna, even though he's the supreme, the most powerful, the cause of all causes, he allows himself to be controlled by the love and devotion of his devotees. That's why he became the chariot driver for Arjuna. That is why he dances in front of the gopis for a little bit of butter. So this is all Krishna reciprocating to the love and devotion. So this is the knowledge that allows one to control Krishna. And the reason that it is so confidential is that it is so simple. Now, if Krishna had said most confidential and then he gives a very elaborate and complicated way, then one might say, you might as well just explain it, because very few people will be able to follow it, like Ashtanga Yoga. But he says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, that you may bhakti prashyate, whatever you offer, because he's not really concerned about the offering. So one might say that, if what about vegetables? And if not flowers, what about buds? Or what if I offer money? The point over here is that he's not saying that these are the only things that can be offered with love and devotion. The point he's saying is anything you offer, the ingredient is love and devotion. So like when we make the offering of bhoga to Krishna, then actually what Krishna relishes is the love and devotion that went into preparing that bhoga. That is something that only we can give, because only we have it. Krishna has everything. He has a lot of good food, and he has a lot of good cooks preparing for him. So there's no reason for him to be attracted to our simple cooking. But when we cook and offer, then there is this magic ingredient that Krishna does not have, which is our love and devotion. And that's what attracts Krishna. That's when Krishna says, let me eat this food and taste the love and devotion of this person. And when he eats that food, then the bhoga becomes prasada. So Krishna says that whatever you offer with love and devotion, I will accept. So key concept for us to understand in terms of understanding the science of bhakti. So now Krishna, in the concluding part of the chapter, is giving assurances which are reflections of the potency of bhakti. So we have been saying that bhakti controls Krishna, and of course it does when one is at that state. But what happens when one is struggling with becoming a pure devotee? People like us who want to serve Krishna, but because of our past and present conditioning, we have strong desires to serve ourselves. We want to offer food to Krishna, But when we cook, we are saying that today I want to eat this. So this is for the wide gamut of Mishra Bhaktas. What does Krishna says? So he says that I am partial. So this is one of the few cases when a person in a position of power and authority is openly declaring his partiality. He says that I am equal to everyone, but partial to my devotees. So equal to everyone means that ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sate bhajami. That as one approaches me, I reciprocate in that mood. That is Krishna's equalness. But he says that I am partial to my devotees. Why is he partial to his devotees? Because that is his prerogative. That is what he chooses to do. He is the supreme person, so he can choose to do anything. So he's not like explaining or trying to justify his partiality. He's simply saying that this is who I am, that I am partial to my devotees. And then he purifies those who come. So that is the potency of bhakti, that anyone and everyone. So this is important in the context of the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, where we saw the gradual process of purification. That first you control your urges by doing your prescribed duties, and then from there you move on. That from doing your prescribed duties, you do your prescribed duties without attachment. From sakam karma, you go to nishkam karma, then you go to atma gyan, then you go to paramatma gyan. So these are all purifications that are attained by the jiva by his own effort. That after long performance of karma kand, the person begins to develop detachment from the body, and begins to do his perform activities out of a sense of duty. And then after long situation and doing your duty with detachment, then you start realizing that you're not the body and the soul. So a lot of effort goes. But here Krishna is saying that I will do it. That even if a person is contaminated, he says if a person is a Shudra, if a person is the most fallen, so he uses these terms to indicate that the person has all kinds of contaminations. But when the person takes to bhakti, then the person is ready to attain perfection, because I purify him of the desires. And this is something that we have experientially also seen, that as we progress more and more, even though we have ways to go, but we can see that difference. That as we practice more and more, then Krishna is reciprocating by this purification. Things that would agitate us don't agitate us that much. Our priorities change. Earlier on, the priority may have been that how can I get the biggest, baddest car on the street, or be better than my neighbor, or whatever. And now it's like, who cares? Or care lesser than what you cared earlier on. This is Krishna's assurance. Then Krishna says that I am proactive, that I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. So this is one of the verses that acharyas love, where Krishna says that this is the extent of the partiality that I exhibit. that even if they are not completely pure, I will overlook it. Even if they have past sinful contaminations, I will overlook it. But I will, whatever little bit of bhakti that they have, I will preserve that. So these are powerful assurances that Krishna is giving. And then he talks about the potency of bhakti. So this was something we saw in the previous, where something very simple can have a disproportionately large influence. So that is the definition of potency. And here Krishna is saying that something as simple as just giving me, Prabhupada would say, just give a glass of water, even if you don't have a leaf, because he does not use and over here, he uses or, a leaf or flower or fruit or some water. Prabhupada say, even if you don't have a leaf or flower or fruit, just give him water. But love and devotion, and that has the potency to have Krishna come running to you. And what about the devotees who fall down? Because in the 6th chapter, Arjuna had asked, what about the yogis who fall down? And then Krishna says, well, if they fall down, then they go through this process and they have to start again. But here he says that even if they commit the most sinful acts, they will not fall. And he says, Arjun, you declare it boldly that my devotees never perish. So when he says my devotees never perish, what he's saying is that the devotion in my devotees never perish. They will never cease to be my devotees. Their progress might slow down, but Krishna is purifying them. He's proactively helping them. He's offering them this potent process. So that's the nature of bhakti. The nature of karma is that it gets the reactions to the karma, both good and bad, get nullified very quickly. Today you give something in charity, and tomorrow you get an increment in your salary. That karma is gone. Today you steal from somebody, tomorrow somebody steals from you. That karma is gone. So karma is flickering. It comes and goes. Today you offer obeisances to the deities, it will stay with you forever. That's the nature of bhakti. Even if, and of course not recommended, but even if you, after you offer obeisances to the deities, even if you go out and kill somebody, doesn't matter. The spiritual progress that you have made stays, and it can only grow. So this is the concluding part of the chapter. So quick recap. So Krishna had spoken about himself as the goal. He had talked about the consciousness. Now he explains how to become Krishna conscious. Because he had said that your consciousness at the time of death determines your destination. Now he says how to become Krishna conscious, which is simply by offering anything and everything with love to Krishna. And in response to this, Krishna promises partiality, preservation, protection, purification, everything. Anything that you can think about, Krishna promises it. So this is one of the famous verses in the 9th chapter. 9th chapter is a lot of many, because it's such a key chapter. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakti prayachati tadaham bhakti upaharatam ashnami priyatatmana. So patram pushpam phalam toyam. That one, if one offers, and whoever, no, I think I made a mistake here. I did not change the translation, but it says that if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, and some water, I will accept it. And Krishna uses the word love 3 times over here, just to emphasize on the importance of love. Yume bhaktya prachati tadam bhakta upaharatam ashnami priyatatmana. So the point is making is that love, love, love. That is the essence of bhakti. Okay, so the 3 sections in chapter 9 is, the first is the Chintya Bheda Ved Tattva. Second is knowing Krishna. We discuss the Mahamaya and Yogamaya. And the third is the assurances by Krishna, his protection, purification, his partiality, his preservation. What is Achintya Bheda Ved Tattva? And this is basically just a high level understanding. It's the inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference between Krishna and the Jiva and the material world. What are the 3 levels of confidential knowledge? Atma Gyan, knowledge of the soul; Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of the relationship with Krishna; and Bhakti, how to establish that relationship. What is the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya? Yogamaya unites with Krishna and Mahamaya makes one forget Krishna. Mahamaya is Durga Devi, Yogamaya is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. What is the most confidential knowledge? That Krishna can be easily accessed through the process of bhakti. And on bhakti, there is an asterisk which says that which can be easily performed. So Krishna is easily accessed through bhakti, and bhakti can be very easily performed. So what is the assurance that Krishna gives to his devotees? It comes under the broad category of that Krishna will always protect. Okay, so let me pause here and see if there is any comments.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, Dhaval Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question. I'm sorry I didn't attend the last class, but I have a question about it because you explained that this one, in this chapter, Krishna talks about the most confidential knowledge, and before talks about the more confidential knowledge. So I'm just trying to understand, and he also explained in this one that in this chapter, Krishna talks about the Maya Yogya, Maya and Yogya, So just trying to understand why Krishna again talks about like worshipping the demigods and everything, the Maya, and it just kind of creates a state of mind where one has to have that clarity, and then talks about Yoga Maya that Krishna tells that you have to only worship myself. uh, why is that distinction coming in this most confidential knowledge? And also I'm like a little confused about it, like Krishna is the one who is the originator, and through him all the demigods and everything came. So how does one basically, if one goes into the Maya, basically in worshiping demigods, does that person doesn't get the assurances? I mean, in terms of perseverance and, in terms of purification, and how does one protect himself? Because a lot of times we do not follow into the, I understand the whole bhakti, the most confidential knowledge, but, sometimes I think we may not go into the complete process of chanting, but we may go into association of devotees and everything. Would that be still considered as a process? I mean, just a question.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu. So I think you asked somewhere between 2 and 3 questions. Let me see if I get them right. So why does Krishna talk about it? Why does Krishna talk about Mahamaya when he's talking about the most confidential knowledge? So he's talking about it to explain what happens to those who don't get it. Right. So the most confidential knowledge is that the real happiness of the jiva is to be connected with Krishna in bhakti. And he said those are under my internal energy, always protected and all that stuff. But then what about those who don't? Because bhakti is so the term love is synonymously used by bhakti purposefully, because even in the material context, it is one of the few things that cannot be forced. You cannot go in and say that from tomorrow onwards, I will develop love for such and such person. Right? You cannot order another person saying that. Srila Prabhupada will give the example that you cannot hold the gun to a head of a person and say that love me now. They may go through the motions, but the love is the ultimate representation of a person's free will exercised that way. So what about those who exercise their free will in a different way? So Krishna talks about that for the sake of completeness. That's what happens. That these are the kinds of people who become materialist, impersonalist, demigod worshippers, and the destination is a repeated cycle of birth and death. And yes, you're right. They do not have Krishna's direct protection. So they're protected by the laws that Krishna enacts. The law of karma, you do good things will happen to you. Then the demigods will reciprocate them as per the laws that Krishna has created. So they're protected that way, in a material in a way. But they do not get Krishna's direct protection. So that's the distinction that is there. And yes, demigods are devotees of Krishna. Demigods themselves worship Krishna. Krishna created the demigods. So all that you said is right. The fault is not in worshipping demigods. The fault is in worshipping the demigods as God. Right. So if you worship a servant as the master, then neither the master nor the servant nor you will benefit out of it. Which is why Krishna has spoken about Sambandha Gyan before this. He has already spoken about his position as the supreme absolute. So if one is not able to accept or reconcile that position, then yes, the consequences is that if a man approaches a woman who is his mother, thinking of her as his wife, that relationship will be is a convoluted relationship. It's not that a relationship between a man and a woman, a conjugal relationship is a bad relationship. It's not that. But what is bad is that when the man approaches his mother for that relationship. So the understanding of the position of the person at the other end of the relationship is very important before you establish the nature of the relationship, which is why Krishna first establishes his relationship. And third part, yes, I agree with what you're saying. We are all in that category that while we are perfecting our bhakti or improving our bhakti, we do what we can. Right? We take association of devotees. We try and chant. We are like sometimes, like we say 16 rounds. At the end of the day, what is 16 rounds? It's nothing. Right? Krishna's devotees, they are Kirtaniya Sadahari. They are chanting 24/7, 365 days. Right? So, because we are not at that mode, we take a small token and say that at least 16 rounds. So it's a needle that is going in the positive, and at different degrees. But the person, at this point is made in the nectar of instruction, that a devotee is one who thinks favorably of Krishna and his devotees. Like, they don't say that devotee is one who is chanting 16 rounds, or devotee is one. All that happens as a natural consequence. If you think favorably of Krishna, then you would like to do something to Krishna. So that is a natural corollary of that. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
I think Shivani, you had your hand raised. Oh, you have something in the chat. If he is qualitatively similar with the jivas, does he then have the vices of the jiva too? So the vices of the jiva are not arising from the swarup of the jiva. So when we talk about the qualitative similarity, we are talking about the jiva in his pure spiritual form, which is Sat Chit Anand. And that is what Krishna is, Sat Chit and Anand. So the vices of anger, envy, lust that the jiva inherits is not because they are present intrinsically in the soul, because then there would be no way for us to remove it, but because they are acquired by our association with the modes. It's like you're going into a room with white light and you put on red colored glasses. So then everything around you is red. That's because of the nature of the glasses. When you take the glasses off, it will be white. When you free yourself of the debilitating association of the modes, then your swarup will be restored. Okay. You're also saying now it is streaming. I don't understand that question. Maybe you can explain that. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like the last section is so assuring to us, Prabhuji. Like I feel like going through probably at least daily for some time to get these things into me, imbibe into it, because sometimes it our sadhana we feel little bit feeling struggling because you don't feel that chanting is not like engaging. You feel so that is so assuring, and it shows the Krishna's love towards us. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for that explanation.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you for sharing your realization. Okay, so if there are
and one small question also, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like in chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge that Krishna gave is the intimate loving relationship. As I understood, he only talked about the Shuddha Bhakti here in chapter 9. In chapter 7, I could understand clearly it is Mishram Bhakti, because all the devotees mentioned, they are all mixed devotees. And but in chapter 8, Prabhuji, like attaining the Supreme, you mentioned about the 5 aspects that keep the Jiva conditioned and how Jiva can go back to Godhead. So that is is it also Mishram Bhakti, Prabhuji? Is Shuddha Bhakti is the first time introduced in chapter 9, Prabhuji?
So chapter 8 is not really talking about the process that much. It is kind of indicating the perfection of the process. Now, it is not prayojan. It's not indicating what happens after you attain it, but what chapter 8 tells you is that if you execute your bhakti properly, this is what will happen. So Krishna being very good at increasing our curiosity and anticipation, he puts the chapter 8 before chapter 9. He could have put it after it also, saying that this is bhakti. If you perform bhakti properly, then you will live your life in consciousness of me. And by living your life in consciousness of me, when you die, you will be conscious of me. And whatever your consciousness is at the time of death, you will attain, so you will attain me. That would be one way you could have put it. But you put it ahead, saying that this is the glory. Now to attain that glory, this is the simple and easy path. Okay. Do we have any other? Shivani, your hand is still, is it just from before, I was saying?
I have a question, Prabhuji Pad here.
Yes, Prabhu.
Little confused. The first first few chapters, 6 chapters, karma, all about karma, and then migrating to bhakti, and you illustrated that if you when you do the karma, you probably get a short-term, not gain, but a short-term fruits of that karma. But bhakti is little more perpetual than transient. But if the karma, what I understood is the niskama karma, which I really like that part of it, which is basically selfless, desireless karma. I remember a little bit of that. I like that line which says that karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Right? It's never attached to the result. Just do the karma. Just do it. But at the same time, when we migrate to bhakti, and you say and bhakti, I believe it's devotion, whatever little I've understood, that pure love, the way you illustrated that. Even if you give a glass of water with love and devotion, it is far better than 56 courses of lunch or dinner without any devotion, right? So if I relate that to the husband or wife or mother or father, whoever has cooked with love and devotion, with sincerity, even if it's a burnt food, it actually tastes fantastic than creating a food without the love, right? So if bhakti is more perpetual than karma, then why do karma at all? Number one. Number two, I have not got the essence of the bhakti, but I think because I as an individual have a little experience of life of doing karma, and most of the karmas, as I would call it, is where my work goes on, right? The employee, as an employee, that's where a lot of experience I have. Maybe other places I don't have that great experience, but every time I did any karma with devotion and love without attachment to the result, I think it is a phenomenal experience of mine, which I'll continue to cherish and continue to propagate. And I really believe in that, right? That niskama karma that you have taught us. So what is this bhakti which is higher than karma? Number one, that's what I'm a little getting confused, because you said if you do.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, because you said you can also kill. I mean, I obviously didn't mean that. But you went on to illustrating that it has a much more perpetual protection. If you have fallen into doing something which is anyway, I think somebody who's doing the bhakti probably would never fall into that level of doing that hurt to somebody or killing somebody, even if you didn't mean it. But I think this is a powerful example. So that's where a little confusion between karma and
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you. So two questions, both very good questions. The one is, what is bhakti? In short answer is bhakti is loving Krishna. If you cannot, and Krishna will explain a little bit more about the nuances of bhakti in the 12th chapter, where he says that you may not be able to love me completely, but then there's some other, I don't want to steal Krishna's thunder, but he gives some nuances. But from perspective of definition, bhakti is simply loving Krishna. It's as simple as that. Now, given the potency of bhakti, why does Krishna give other things? Because uh, uh, it is not up to him, it's up to us to take it away. If Krishna gave only bhakti, then you would either be a devotee or you would be a asura. There would be no in between. If Krishna said that either follow bhakti or you're condemned, then you would either be in a ship that is sailing or you would be drowning. Now, Krishna gives all these other paths because people who, because of their conditioning and propensity, are not able to take to love of God, can take to something else. They can take to karma. Somebody is very fruitive by nature. Somebody has a strong desire to work and create something for themselves to enjoy, or create something that will glorify them. So Krishna says that if your nature is that, let me give you a list of activities that you can do, as opposed to you doing anything and everything. So automatically now there is some submission to Krishna. Even though it's not a loving submission, the person who is performing pious activities, he's submitting that, okay, Krishna, I don't really care about you, but give me this list. I will work according to this list. And the reason it is there is that because that will, over time, gradually take one to the path of bhakti. So the person has some modicum of protection. For instance, if a person continues to do pious activities, then at least he continues to get the human form of life. So there is some protection. And then there is a gradual growing appreciation that, yes, I got this list, and if I follow the list, things happen well for me. So the person who gave me this list is my well-wisher. That I don't really care for him, but I think he's a good guy. And from there, that appreciation will over time intensify into affection and love. Yeah, so I'm going to stop here because we're running out of life. Thank you for running out of time. Sorry, life also. So thank you for your discussion. We can have the Narsingadev prayers. Is it Zoe? Who's doing the Narsingadev prayer?
Yes, Zoe.
Okay, okay.
Okay, Zoe.
Namaste Narashingaya Praladadadadaine Hiranyakashipu Raksha Shilatankanakalaye Ito Nashinga Parato Nashinga Yato Yato Yamitato Nashinga Pahe Nashinga Vidaye Nashinga Narashingamadem Sharanam Papadem Tava Karakamalavade Naka Aduta Shinga Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanurenda Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Much, Zoe.
You're, yeah, you're mute. Thank you.